right? And they came back. They went out, they spied the land, they come back. It says they went out and they spied the land, and they came back, right? So they came back to Moshe. They should have just said they came back. They arrived. We already know they went because that's all part of the first part of the parsha. Why repeat the fact that they left? So Rashi says to connect up the going with the coming. Just like they came back with bad advice, they left with bad intentions as well. You know, we're bothered by the fact what went wrong, what soured over here. Why these great people who are kasherim hayu, right, kosher people, why would they go ahead and make a terribly tragic mistake and reject Eretz Yisrael? How could they do that? So Rashi is saying they were already doing it when they first left, which is a word unto itself, which is why Kadosh Baruch Hu did not command them to go. Because their greatness was as long as Moshe Rabbeinu was in front of them. He was mashpia, and they were mushpa. So as long as Moshe was there, they were able to maintain a high spiritual level. They asked to spy the land, and Moshe is telling them, you know, you're going to be on your own over here. And when you leave me, the moment they turn their back, except for Yoshua and Kalev is for a different reason, because he's the Gilgul of Eliezer, the servant of Avraham Avinu, which is why he goes to Kever, to Chevron and to Kever Avraham, to daven for Hatzlacha, because he's the Gilgul, and Yeshua gets the extra Yud from Sarai. It's a long story over here, but they survive. But the other 10 were dependent upon the godless of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the moment they turned their back and they could not be mushpa from his shefa, from his light and his guidance, they dropped. And they already doubted, and they already feared, and they became concerned. And they started talking about, you know how it works. You know how it works. One guy starts to complain, one guy starts to worry innocently, and then at least another complaint. Before you know it, there's all this negativity built up towards doing something very positive, which is what happened to Meragli. So that's what Rashi says. But on a Kabbalistic level, but Derech Sod, he says, no, that's to tell you, right, that there were two goings, right? And he says that the first going, the inenu, kifia sod, according to Sod, ki yelchu chozer el neshamas hashvatim, that they went and they returned to the neshamas of the shvatim, sha'achum nistalchu mehem, and that they left them. Kasher shavu mitura aris, and they spied the land. And so the first time they went out, it's because of the fact that they want to spy the land. But so the first thing is when they went out to go into the shvatim themselves, and the second that they went means that they actually went and they came back. So this is all to allude to the fact that the shvatim, the spies, had these souls within them, and the more important question is going to be, why would that be the case? Like, why is it so important that these neshamas go into them, and how does it tie back to Yosef as well? So, there was a medrash, and the medrash says the following thing, that to l'ma hadavar dom, what is it like, the Jewish people asking to spy the land? What is it like? What is it comparable to? So the medrash says it's comparable to a princess who decides that she wants to marry a commoner because she wants to marry someone more down to earth and elevate him, and she sends her most trusted servants out to go find the nicest, most developed, most honorable commoner they can possibly find. And they do. They find someone, a hardworking farmer, honest, good reputation, good name, and they say to him, the princess wants to marry you. And he says, what? What? Why would a princess want to marry a commoner? That's her business. But she wants to marry someone who's good and honorable, and you have a good reputation, a good name. Are you interested? He said, well, I'm interested, but you know, what's wrong with the princess? Why would a princess want to marry a commoner? She could marry a prince. She could marry, you know, a king. Why would she want to marry a commoner? Can I see her first? They look at each other. This guy's crazy. You want to go see the princess first? You know, like she's in a. Who cares what she looks like? Who out of your lowly position over here? Some people would argue it's better to be poor like this but work hard than to live with a wife who drives you nuts or a husband who drives you nuts. But still, you know, assuming that there might be some good over here. So he says, "Can I see her first?" So they don't know what to say. They go back to the princess and they say, "We have good news and we have bad news. The good news is we found somebody for the princess, an honest, hardworking individual, a farmer, clean shaven, clean cut, the whole thing, and he's got a great reputation." She says, "Great, what's the bad news?" The bad news is he wants to meet the princess first before agreeing. She says to herself, what? It's like, I'm offering him the opportunity of a lifetime. He wants to see the princess first. He thinks about it for a second. He says, okay, I'll tell you what. Tell him to come. Bring him here, right? They go back, they prepare him, they shave him, they clean him up, they make him look fitting to come to the palace, to meet the princess, and he does exactly that, with trepidation and anxiousness and the whole thing. And finally it comes time to meet the princess, and they open the door, and there is this young lady sitting at a table, but she has a black veil over her. She's wearing a black dress, like Kilu, she's in a veil, like she's mourning. She's wearing a black veil over her. But the truth is, she's extremely attractive, and she has wonderful midas, and she is a great wife, right? But she's disturbed a bit by the fact this guy doesn't trust that she might be okay, right? After all the gift is coming to her. So he takes one look and says, "This is the princess." She sits around like, did someone die? She sits around the entire time mourning. That's the kind of life we're going to have over here. She's been mourning the entire time. It's okay. I'd rather be back with my cows in the field. Okay, it was a happier life over there, and he goes back. And the reality is, we may find it later on, he gave up the opportunity of a lifetime. Because underneath the big veils, underneath the bad stuff, underneath the black, was a wonderful opportunity to go up in life and to excel and to get everything you ever dreamed of. So the Meraglim come to Kadosh Baruch Hu. He said, I'm giving you a gift. This is God giving a gift to the Jewish people. And you're asking, can we see it first? Can we spy the land to see what it's like? And God's giving it? That's how you say thank you? Let him come. Let him come. So he puts big deal, here's Israel. They go there and they go up and down, north and south, east and west, and they see giants, and they see all kinds of things that were done for the sake of Bruch, to protect them. And they interpret it negatively. The entire reject the land. Even though it's a tremendous matana and gift, they reject the land. Even though it was a beautiful princess the entire time, all the way through. Well, that's the story of Yosef and his brothers, from the beginning until the end. They're misreading him. They misjudge him. The entire time, they're angry and they're jealous and they hate him and they feel he's a threat to the future of Klal Yisrael. So they dispose of him. In spite of the fact it's going to hurt him, it's going to hurt their father, and cause all kinds of terrible things to happen in the course of 22 years. Not for him, because it's all part of HaShavua practice. It's a way to build him, to get him to become viceroy of Egypt, ultimately. It all works out for the good. That's what he says. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me down here to save the Klal Yisrael, to save the Jewish people. Right? It's all HaShavua practice, but that wasn't their kavana. That wasn't their intention. Here comes the dreamer. Let's see what happens to his dreams now. Right? And they put him into the pit, and they sell him eventually. Right? They couldn't quite kill him. They convened as a Beis Din to kill him, but they couldn't quite do it, thanks to Yehuda, and Reuven for that matter. So what do they do in the end? They sell him to Midianim, to Ishmaelim. He goes down to Mitzrayim. He's in jail for, first he works for Potiphar, and then he goes to jail for 12 years, and eventually becomes viceroy of Egypt, and everything happens according to the Chumash. But the entire time, they're misreading him, and they're misjudging him, and they're seeing bad where there's in fact good. They're dealing with Yosef on the surface of things and rejecting the panemius of Yosef. So what happens in the end? They find it otherwise. So that's what Yosef is saying. Meraglim matem. He's telling his brothers, listen folks, okay, in the future, you will come back and go into the actual Meraglim who will spy the land. And the entire future of the Jewish people, of Klal Yisrael, depends upon the success of that mission. And if you don't get your act together with respect to me, right, by learning to judge things properly, by not dealing with things on the surface, but by going deeper into the matter, into the issue, and looking at the panemius of the situation, and appreciating the brucha that's brucha, and rejecting the klala that's klala, rather than saying brucha's klala and klala's brucha, and reversing the whole thing up like the upside down nun in last week's parsha. If you don't get your act together, and then you come back later on in the actual Meraglim, how will you fare when you spy the land? And the answer, of course, is in this week's parsha. They didn't succeed back then. They were matakin what they had to matakin back at that time, which is why Yosef cries before Parashas Shlach comes to an end.